Alright, this is the second video on experiencing emotion, and this video we are going to focus on anger and happiness. So, first of all, anger. Anger, can venting your anger be cathartic? So what's catharsis? What does that mean? A catharsis is basically letting your emotions out, letting your emotions go. Now, in the book, they talk about catharsis being more a physical reaction. So, for example, when you get angry, you go and punch a wall, right? Or you go and yell at the person that you're angry at. You do something that's physically reactive. Okay, so I did show a video that goes along with this. This is the video that goes along with it. It's a clip from the movie Fried Green Tomatoes. Fried Green Tomatoes is an older movie, but I'm not going to play it within this movie, but within this video, but I will place it on canvas underneath this video. So the video is called Fried Green Tomatoes, and I would encourage you to take a look at it just because it's kind of funny. I mean, that was the point. But in the video, it's looking at this woman who's basically waiting for a parking spot at a grocery store, and she's patiently waiting. This person's backing out of the parking spot. There's no other parking spots around. She's patiently waiting as this person backs out, and as she's waiting, this little red Volkswagen Bug comes and zips in from the other side and takes her parking spot. And she just sits there and she's just like, oh my gosh, that was mine. And the women that were in that car get out, and she says, excuse me, I was waiting for that spot. And they said, face it, lady, we're younger and faster. And they walk off and they think they're all smart and everything, and you can just see her seething with anger, and she's just mad. And she sits there and she finally decides, you know what, I'm going to do about something about this. So what does she do? She goes and rams their car several times. And so the question is this catharsis? Is this letting go of those emotions? Is this good for you? Well, actually, research shows that acting angry can actually make you feel even more angry. For example, if you get angry and you let it out, so you vent your anger, you hit a wall, you go and yell at somebody. What oftentimes, more often than not happens is that you actually get more angry. You're more angry because now your hand hurts, right? Now you're more angry because you're building up all those things that were making you angry, and it's getting out, but yet now you're thinking about all the other things that are making you angry, right? The other part is that even if it does make you feel a little bit better, it just increases your chances of doing it again. So maybe today I had to hit a wall to be able to get my anger out and get my catharsis, but maybe tomorrow I'm angry and hitting that wall doesn't give that same satisfaction. So then I have to increase it. I have to up something. I have to go and find something else to hit, right? So venting your anger in that way is not a great idea. But there is this, so in this sense of getting out your anger, I had to show you this because I read about this and this was just intriguing. There is actually a place in China. This is a restaurant in China that is the Rising Sun Anger Release Bar in China, and it employs people that are waiters that you can go and actually come in as a customer and beat them up. So this lady here is obviously beating up on this person, and they are actually in this bar, and this person is actually employed by the bar. So it's kind of interesting, but yeah, they are free to punch, scream at without fear of retaliation, to be able to do that. Now, is that healthy? No, it's not. It's not really going to help their anger. They're not working through their anger. They're just, getting very physical about their anger. So what's a better way? Well, a better way is to calm yourself with some exercise. Have you ever tried running, working out? If you want to hit something, maybe do some kickboxing, or playing an instrument. For some people, playing an instrument is soothing, right? It makes you calmer. Talking things through with a friend, and I'm not saying yelling at them, talking them through with a friend. And it may not even be the person that you're angry with. Maybe you're just talking to somebody and saying, oh my gosh, this is, what happened today. This is why I'm so upset and so really pissed off about this. And, it can help because the other person, maybe wasn't involved in that particular situation and in that scenario. And so as a result, they have some outside perspective and maybe they can help you kind of calm you down. So these are kind of some better ways to deal with anger than venting your anger, like, for example, the lady in the video of fried green turp. But let's switch gears and let's talk about happiness. So happiness is obviously the complete opposite. And what we have found is that when you feel happy, you are more likely to help other people. This is what we call the feel good, do good phenomenon. When you're happy, you walk by on the street, somebody drops their bag, somebody drops their stuff. If you're happy and you're feeling good, you are more likely to stop and help that person. Whereas, if you're in a bad mood, you're like, nobody helped me when I dropped my stuff. Why should I help them? And you're less likely to help them. So, good feelings can be good for good Samaritans. However, at the same point in time, you can also keep on the idea that, going and helping somebody can also make you feel better. So, question, does money buy happiness? Can you buy happiness? Do people, for example, is a billionaire more happy than a millionaire? In that regard, probably not. But if you're talking about somebody who, for example, makes minimum wage versus somebody who makes $40,000, yeah, the $40,000 person is probably going to be happier than the minimum wage person. Money buys happiness to a point. Once you have enough money to be able to pay for comfort and safety and security, then more money on top of that does not lead to more happiness. As long as you have enough money to be able to cover the basics and the things that you need, it doesn't lead to more happiness. You're not going to, for example, be happier just because you had a $10,000 raise. There's been lots of studies that look at this and look at how much household income has increased over the years in various countries, and then they looked at their happiness scale as far as how happy are the people in that particular country. Now, obviously, this is self-reporting, but again, this is fairly relevant from the standpoint of how happy they are. And what they have found is happiness has been relatively stable as far as compared to the income. It's not increasing as much as the income. So, just because this kid is, poor and he doesn't have a whole lot of money and he looks pretty happy to me. I don't even know what's on his eyes. I think that's like some toothpicks and marshmallows or something. But money can't buy happiness. However, spending money, how you spend your money can impact your happiness. If you spend more money on other people, it will have a bigger impact on your happiness rather than spending it on yourself. So spending money, for example, makes you feel good, doing some good charity work, right? Providing some money for somebody that maybe wouldn't be able to afford it otherwise. Prime example, this guy here, this is Bill Gates, and this is his wife, Melinda Gates. Bill Gates, obviously, huge multi-billionaire, has more money than you and I, and like probably everybody in the school combined could make in our entire lifetime. But Bill Gates has a whole bunch of money that, he earned it. He worked very hard for it. However, I propose that he probably isn't as happy, hasn't been as happy earning it as he has been giving it away. Him and his wife have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, where they actually spend money throughout the world in areas that are impoverished, trying to bring technology to areas that don't have it. And it has raised their happiness level to the point where he's gotten much more, I would argue, much more satisfaction out of his foundation than his any of his tech programs. He is already retired, for example, from being the CEO of Microsoft, and he's now full-time just working on the foundation and trying to do that. And so obviously he must feel that that is more important and more fulfilling than his corporation is. So that's kind of trying to prove the point that spending money on other people can impact your happiness level more than spending it on yourself. All right, last slide that I wanted to talk about is surveys showed that happiness levels have been on the rise in many countries. I kind of alluded to that in the last slide, but basically I was trying to find some sort of graph to illustrate this, but the best I found was the United States. This graph is looking at the income and the very happy people from 1955 to 2005. So you can see that the average income has increased, and this is, by the way, in 1995 dollars. But the average income has increased steadily since 1955. But look at the amount of very happy people, the percentage of very happy people. Pretty much stayed steady. Okay, it has slowly increased, but it's not, it's different than, for example, their income. If you believe that money makes you happier, you would see a heck of a lot more happy people, right? So that's one thing. Now, happiness level is relative. It is relative compared to a lot of different things. The first thing is that this adaptation level phenomenon. Your level of happiness can be based on a comparison to previous experiences. So if you look at what you've previously experienced, your current experience may be better or worse than that. For example, this is the car that I used to drive when I was in high school. This is not the exact car, but I found a picture of one just like it. I used to drive a 1984 Oldsmobile Cutlass Sierra when I was in high school. And yes, it was maroon. His name was Orville, by the way, in case you wanted to know. But this car was the car that my parents drove around, my brother and sister and I, when we were kids. And we all fit in the back seat, three of us in the back seat, right? And that was the normal thing to do, right? In this sedan, and it wasn't very popular to have minivans or huge SUVs at the time. And so, the three kids would sit in the back seat. Was it crowded? Yes. Was it uncomfortable? Yes. I had many a fight with my sister about my brother sitting in the middle of us. But here's the thing is that now it's much more common to have SUVs and minivans. For example, this is what I drive now. So I drive a 2009 Dodge Journey. It has 3-row seating. And so as a result, my 3 kids are sitting in there. And so comparatively, okay, this sounds so much better, right? I'm so much happier having this than, for example, if I had to go back and drive my 3 kids around in a car like this 1984 Cutlass Sierra, right? It can also, so it can increase your happiness if you have a relatively, bad experience or something that you're like, oh my gosh, look how far I've come. But it can also work in the reverse. If, for example, you have experience with, if you've ever flown in an airplane before and you've ever flown in first class, right? You fly in first class and they're much more attentive to you. You get some, better little extras, some meals or some snacks or drinks or whatever. They're much more plush seats. They're wider. They, recline back. You don't have as many seats beside you. But then you go from flying first class to flying coach. Oh my gosh, now I'm a heck of a lot less happy than I was when I was flying first class. This seems like a joke, right? So this adaptation level phenomenon is basically comparing to previous experiences that you have had. Now, the other part of this is what we call the relative deprivation. And relative deprivation is a comparison to others better off than you, okay? So, for example, if I compare public school teachers to Chatard teachers. You may not know this, but public school teachers make a heck of a lot more money than private school teachers do. And if you talk to a lot of the Chatard teachers, they will talk about how, oh gosh, If I was working at a public school, I could make $10,000, $15,000 more than I make here, right? So comparatively, relative deprivation, comparatively, I'm so much less happier than I would be if I was a teacher at a public school. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that's true for me, but that's an example. So keep in mind, happiness level is relative. So it's relative based on your previous experiences, which is adaptation level phenomenon, and it's relative based on how you compare to people that are better off than you. So that's relative deprivation. All right, let me know if you have any questions.